What do you make of this brutal takeover of Calvary Hospital in Canberra?
Well, brutal is right. There is no evidence that the administration of Calvary Hospital in Canberra failed reasonable medical standards. I've spoken to a number of people who live in the ACT, and many of them had said the medical treatment at Calvary was superior to that of the public hospital. Now, I'm not here to denigrate the public health system of the ACT. I'm sure it's filled with very dedicated men and women. But when you take over a hospital that was established in 1971 through an agreement with the then federal government and the little company of Mary, and has been administered as part of the Calvary Hospital network throughout Australia, which provides magnificent health care, compassionate health care, guided unashamedly by the Christian Catholic principles of the people who run the hospital, but fundamentally doing a very good job as a medical service. When you have that, you've got to ask the question, why is this happening? Is it because they don't like the religious ambience of the hospital? Is it because they are affronted by the sign of Christian crosses on the hospital? Is it because they fear that the ethos of the hospital under Catholic administration might be less friendly towards euthanasia and abortion than a public hospital might be? Well, I haven't yet seen all of the evidence on that, but in the end, you're talking here about rights of conscience. And if a hospital facility says, well, we provide all of these services, but we have concerns in these two areas, that surely in freedom-loving Australia is not a reason to wrench the hospital away from its Catholic administration.
I mean, this has made headlines around the world. A US-based news site reporting that the Catholic hospital was seized, quote, in an apparent effort to expand abortion. What are your thoughts? Well, if that's not... If that's happened, and I don't doubt it has happened, you wouldn't quote it incorrectly, that's not a sufficient reason. Look, the hospital has served the people of Canberra well and faithfully and consistent with Christian principles. And let's face it, the principles of a public hospital are founded on Christian principle, care for human life. There are some areas where there are differences, of course, and they need to be debated out and conscience needs to be respected. But just because they exist is not a reason for a hospital to be taken over unless there is a reason that hasn't been fully explained. Maybe the economics of blending the two together are more acceptable to the ACT government. But does that give them a right to abruptly terminate a service that's existed since 1971? The little company of Mary was given a 99-year lease in 1971, and that's been interrupted. Obviously, compensation will have to be paid, but what's the argument? What's the case? I haven't heard the case. Yes.
The minister, the chief minister of the AEST has got to tell the Australian people, not just his own people, what his case is, not hide behind half references and suggestions and imputations rather than just explaining to us. And I think people have a right to see this as carrying a fair amount of anti-religious bias.